You wake up, you check your phone. Within minutes, someone your age has launched a business. Someone else is traveling the world. Another person just got engaged. A former classmate bought a house. A friend announces a promotion. And suddenly, your own life feels smaller. Nothing about your life actually changed during those few seconds. Your job is the same. Your relationships are the same. Your achievements are the same. Yet somehow, you feel behind. You feel less successful, less attractive, less accomplished, less enough. The strange part is that comparison doesn't disappear as we grow older. Children compare grades. Teenagers compare popularity. Adults compare careers. Parents compare families. Even elderly people compare health, achievements, and the lives their children built. Comparison follows us throughout almost every stage of life. But why? Why does your brain constantly measure your life against someone else's? Why can complete strangers affect your confidence? Why can someone else's success sometimes feel like your own failure? And perhaps the most important question, is comparison actually something wrong with you? Or is your brain simply doing exactly what it evolved to do? Psychologists have spent decades studying this question, and what they discovered is surprising. Comparison is not a personality flaw. It is one of the oldest survival mechanisms built into the human brain. Long before social media, long before schools, long before modern society, our ancestors lived in small tribes. Inside those tribes, survival depended on understanding your place. Who was stronger? Who hunted better? Who gathered more food? Who attracted the best partners? Who had influence? Who had protection? Knowing where you stood wasn't simply about status. It could determine whether you survived. If everyone around you suddenly became faster, stronger, or more skilled, ignoring those differences could become dangerous. So evolution rewarded brains that constantly monitored other people. Your ancestors weren't comparing themselves because they lacked confidence. They compared because comparison increased survival. In many ways, your brain still believes you're living inside that ancient tribe. Except today's tribe isn't 30 people around a campfire. It's millions of people on your phone. Every scroll introduces another person who appears richer, smarter, healthier, more attractive, more successful, or happier than you. Your brain wasn't designed for this. It evolved to compare with dozens of people, not millions. And certainly not millions of carefully edited highlight reels. That is where the real problem begins. Because your brain treats those images as evidence, not entertainment. Every perfect vacation, every promotion, every engagement photo, every luxury car, every fitness transformation becomes another piece of information your brain quietly records. Not because it wants to make you miserable, but because it is still trying to answer the ancient question, where do I stand? Most people believe comparison is about wanting what someone else has. But psychology suggests something much deeper. You are rarely comparing entire lives. You're comparing identities. Think about it. If your friend buys a new guitar, you probably don't feel threatened, unless music is an important part of who you are. If someone wins a marathon, you probably admire them. But if running defines your identity, their success suddenly feels personal. The brain doesn't compare everything. It compares what matters to your sense of self. This idea connects to something psychologists call self-relevance. The more another person's achievement overlaps with your own goals, the stronger your emotional reaction becomes. That's why your coworker's promotion hurts more than a billionaire's success. Your classmate's engagement feels more personal than a movie star's wedding. Someone your age buying a home feels different from someone 30 years older. Similarity creates comparison, not difference. In fact, research consistently shows that we compare ourselves most with people who resemble us. People with similar ages, similar careers, similar backgrounds, similar education, similar dreams. Your brain treats them as reference points. Not because they're objectively better, but because they answer the question, what should someone like me be achieving? This is known as social comparison theory. First proposed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954. The theory suggests that people naturally evaluate themselves by comparing with others when objective measurements are unavailable. Imagine asking yourself, am I successful? There isn't a universal scoreboard for success. No single number tells you whether you're doing well, so your brain looks sideways. It looks at friends, coworkers, neighbors, former classmates, people online, and uses them as mirrors. The problem is, those mirrors are often distorted, Social media makes this distortion even stronger. Very few people post ordinary Tuesday afternoons. They post celebrations, achievements, vacations, announcements, highlights. Failures stay invisible, doubts stay private, loneliness stays hidden. So your brain unknowingly compares your complete life to someone else's carefully edited moments. Imagine reading only the final chapter of hundreds of different books. Every chapter ends with victory. Every ending feels successful. You never see the struggle that came before. Eventually, you begin believing everyone else has figured life out, except you. This psychological distortion has a name: the availability heuristic. Your brain estimates reality based on the information it sees most often. If success is constantly visible, your brain assumes success is constant. If happiness is constantly displayed, your brain assumes everyone else is always happy. Reality quietly disappears behind repeated exposure. And without realizing it, comparison stops measuring reality. It begins measuring illusions. But comparison isn't always harmful. In fact, without comparison, learning would be almost impossible. Children learn language by comparing sounds. Athletes improve by comparing performance. Artists study other artists. Scientists build upon previous discoveries. Comparison itself isn't the problem. The problem is forgetting its purpose. Healthy comparison asks, "What can I learn?" Unhealthy comparison asks, "Why am I not enough?" One inspires growth. The other creates shame. The difference seems small, but psychologically, they activate completely different emotional systems. Growth comparison activates curiosity. Threat comparison activates fear. And fear changes the way your brain processes information. Once comparison becomes emotional, confirmation bias quietly takes over. Instead of seeing reality, you begin collecting evidence that supports your insecurity. If you secretly believe you're unattractive, your brain notices every beautiful face. If you believe you're unsuccessful, every promotion suddenly stands out. If you fear you're falling behind, every engagement, every new house, every achievement feels like proof. Notice what happens next. Your brain isn't trying to discover the truth anymore. It's trying to confirm the story it already believes. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. The brain naturally favors information that supports existing beliefs while ignoring information that contradicts them. Imagine wearing blue-tinted glasses. Eventually, everything begins looking blue. Not because the world changed, but because your perception did. Comparison works the same way. If you believe everyone is doing better, your brain quietly filters reality until that belief feels undeniable. Meanwhile, thousands of ordinary lives disappear from your attention. You don't notice the people struggling financially, the people questioning their careers, the people experiencing loneliness, the people fighting anxiety, the people who also believe everyone else has life figured out. Ironically, many of the people you compare yourself to are comparing themselves to someone else. The comparison chain never ends. Someone with 10,000 followers envies someone with 100,000. Someone earning 6 figures envies a millionaire. The millionaire envies the billionaire. The billionaire envies someone with freedom. The target keeps moving. Psychologists sometimes describe this as the hedonic treadmill. Human satisfaction quickly adapts to improvement. Yesterday's dream becomes today's normal. Today's achievement becomes tomorrow's expectation, which means comparison never allows the finish line to stay still. You finally reach one goal, only to discover your brain has already chosen another person to compare yourself with. That's why comparison rarely creates lasting happiness. It keeps moving the definition of enough. And if enough keeps moving, you never actually arrive. So, what actually helps? The first step isn't trying to stop comparing. That usually doesn't work. Comparison is automatic. Awareness is intentional. Instead of asking, "How do I stop comparing myself?" ask, "What story is this comparison trying to tell me?" Sometimes, comparison reveals envy. But envy isn't always a bad emotion. Psychologists often describe envy as information. It points towards something you deeply value. If someone's creativity makes you jealous, perhaps creativity matters to you. If someone's confidence catches your attention, maybe confidence is something you've been longing to develop. If someone's peaceful life makes you uncomfortable, perhaps your own life has become too crowded. Comparison often acts like a compass, not pointing toward another person, but toward your own unmet needs. The second step is learning to compare yourself across time instead of across people. Your brain naturally compares sideways, but growth is measured forward. Ask yourself, am I kinder than I was a year ago? Am I healthier? More emotionally mature? More patient? Have I learned something difficult? Recovered from something painful? Built habits that my past self could never maintain? Those questions produce a very different emotional response because your only real competitor is the person you used to be. The third step is remembering something social media rarely shows. Every visible success rests on invisible sacrifices. The entrepreneur who built a company probably missed weekends. The athlete with the perfect body spent years saying no to comfort. The musician who performs effortlessly practiced thousands of hours when nobody was watching. The happy couple may have survived countless difficult conversations that never appeared online. Every achievement has a hidden price, but comparison usually hides the cost. Your brain compares your full reality to someone else's visible reward, without seeing everything they gave up to get there. And that's never a fair comparison. Finally, remember this: your life has a different timeline. Psychology repeatedly shows that human development isn't linear. Some people find love at 20, others at 50. Some discover their purpose in college, others after retirement. Some succeed early and spend decades trying to maintain it. Others struggle quietly until one opportunity changes everything. There is no universal schedule for becoming who you are, only the illusion that everyone else is following one. One day, something strange happens. You see the person you once compared yourself to, maybe online, maybe in real life, maybe only in an old photograph. And instead of feeling inferior, you simply notice them. The emotional charge is gone, not because they became less impressive, but because your identity no longer depends on measuring yourself against theirs. That's the moment comparison quietly loses its power. Psychologists often describe identity as something that becomes more stable over time. When you know who you are, other people's achievements become information, not threats. You can admire without feeling diminished, celebrate without feeling defeated, learn without feeling inadequate, because another person's success doesn't subtract from your own potential. Life isn't a single race where only one person wins. It's millions of different journeys unfolding at different speeds, different starting points, different opportunities, different struggles, different definitions of success. The mistake comparison makes is assuming every path should look the same. But imagine judging a tree because it doesn't bloom at the same time as another, or criticizing the moon because it doesn't shine during the day. Nature never compares timelines. It only follows seasons. Human lives work the same way. Some seasons are for learning, some are for building, some are for healing, some are for waiting, and some are finally for growing. If you compare your winter to someone else's summer, you'll always believe you're behind. But you're simply in a different season. Perhaps the real goal isn't eliminating comparison altogether. Perhaps it's transforming it. Instead of asking, why aren't I as successful as them? Ask, what can their journey teach me? Instead of asking, what do they have that I don't? Ask, what kind of life do I actually want to build? Those two questions lead to completely different futures. One creates resentment, the other creates direction. And direction is infinitely more valuable than comparison, because direction moves you forward. Comparison often keeps you standing still. The next time your mind begins measuring your life against someone else's, pause for a moment. Remember that your brain is doing what it evolved to do, but evolution gave you instincts, not instructions. You are free to choose what you pay attention to. You are free to define success on your own terms. You are free to grow at your own pace. And perhaps that's the most important psychological lesson of all. The people you compare yourself to are rarely the real problem. The real challenge is learning to become someone your past self would be proud to become. Because the healthiest comparison you'll ever make isn't with someone else's life. It's with the person you were yesterday.